So guys, this is the measurement that will be required to draft the Princess Bustier, and the first thing we'll be taking is the round bust measurement. To do that, you're going to place the tape all around the bust, and we're going to take the bust measurement. Make sure you don't compress the bust, take it as it is. Also, we'll be taking the round waist measurement, and to do that, you place your tape around the waist and take the waist measurement. The next thing is also to take the shoulder measurement. You'll be placing your tape across the shoulder from one end to another to get that. Also, we'll be taking the shoulder to bust point, which is you place your tape like so from the shoulder all the way to your bust point where your nipple is, and then shoulder to under bust, you'll be placing the tape just after the bust, and then we'll be taking the half length. The half length is usually about 2 to 3 inches after the under bust. And also we'll be taking the nipple to nipple point, because that will be necessary while drafting. To do that, you place your tape from one nipple to the other to take that, and that is it, guys. So guys, to begin drafting, we are going to be folding our fabric into two like this. For me, I'm making use of this pattern paper in place of my fabric. And to begin drafting, you're going to make sure that you have enough allowance at the side, so that by the time you cut out and add some allowances, it's going to be enough to accommodate the measurement. So to know how wide it's going to be, you're going to divide the largest part of your body, which is your bust measurement, into 4. Mine is 38, and divided by 4 is 9.5. So I'm going to be adding 5 inches to that 9.5, so that by the time I add my allowance and all the cutting offs, I'm going to have enough room to accommodate it all. So 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 plus 5 inches, making it 14.5. So I'm just going to cross check what I have here. I have 18 inches, so this is perfect to draft my Princess Bustier. So I'm just going to begin right away. So this is the measurement I'll be using to draft our Princess Bustier. And to begin, this is going to be our center front, the part which is folded, which has no opening. It's going to be our center front. So to begin, I'll first of all mark ½ inch here, and this ½ inch is going to serve as a shoulder allowance, because you know you need this shoulder allowance so that by the time you sew up, everything is going to stay in place. If you don't add the shoulder allowance and you end up sewing, you are going to have your measurements misplaced, because the bust is going to be up, it's not going to sit in its proper position. So make sure you always add up this shoulder allowance before drafting a Princess Bustier. So after doing that, I'm going to mark the shoulder measurement as is 15 divided by 2, making it 7.5, but I'm going to be adding ½ inch for sleeve allowance, so for shoulder allowance, so making it 8 inches here. And from this 8-inch point, I'm going to drop that by 1 inch for the shoulder slant. Also for the neck width, I am going to be marking 3.5 inch here, and for the neck depth, I'll also mark 3.5 inch. This is standard actually. You're going to cut yours according to the client's preference of neckline. You don't have to use this, but for me, I'll be making use of a round neck here, so I'm just going ahead to circle that out like so. So I'm also going to be slanting my shoulder at this point like this. After doing that, I'm going ahead to mark my vertical measurement, and making sure that I'm going to be placing it from this ½ inch point, half inch allowance we dropped here. So I'm going to be marking my vertical measurements, which is my shoulder to bust point, my shoulder to under bust, and my half length. So my shoulder to bust point that I have here is 10 inches, so I'm just going to mark that down here. I'm making sure that everything is straight, so I'm marking it down on both sides before going ahead to rule it out. So shoulder to under bust 13 inches, and my half length, make sure you are marking it from this half inch which you dropped here. So I'm just going ahead to rule that out. So this is the bust points, this is the under bust points. So for the half length, before marking that down, I'm going to be adding the seam, the joining allowance down, which is 1 inch. So for the half length here, we have 16 inches, so plus 1 inch is going to make it 17. So I'm going ahead to mark 17 from that half-inch allowance for the shoulder. Keep that in mind. 17 inches. After doing that, I'm going ahead to create my armhole curve, and to do that, from this 1 inch slants here, we are going to mark down 8 inches. The formula for getting this is your bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I'm just going to mark my 8, rule a straight line across my 8-inch point like so, and I'm also going to draw a straight line to meet it from the shoulder. So I'm just going ahead to align it, making sure that everything is straight, marking down 8 inch here as well. So I'm just going to rule this down like so. After doing that, to get this curve, I'll first of all insert my bust measurement, and my bust is 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. So I'm just going to mark down 9.5 here. To create the curve, I'm going to measure what I have here, and here I have 8 inch, and I'm going to be dividing that into 2. And from this middle point, I'm going to go in by half inch, and I'm going to create a curve from this point all through the half inch to this bust point like so. So now we have our armhole curve. After doing that, I am going to I forgot to label the half length, so I'm just going to put that down so you understand what I'm doing here. After doing that, I'm also going to be inserting my waist measurement on this half length here, and to do that, I'm going to be dividing my waist, which is 28, into 4, making it 7 inch. So I'm just going to insert 7 inch at this point. Note that I did not add any sewing allowance at this point yet. We're going to be doing that along the way, but for now we are going ahead to begin our drafting of the Princess Bustier. At this point, we are going to be creating our princess darts, and to do that, we're going to be marking the bust span on this bust point line. So the bust span is actually the distance from one bust to the other. Some people call it the nipple to nipple point. So whatever your bust span is, you're going to be dividing it into 2. Here we have 8 inch, so I am going to be dividing that into 2, and I'm going to be adding half-inch allowance for joining, so making it 4.5 inch. I actually made a video on how to get the bust span in case you forget to take it on your client. The formula for getting this is your bust measurement divided by 8 minus 1 inch gives you the perfect bust span. So after marking that down, on this under bust, we are going to subtract 0.5 inch from what we have on this bust point. So here we had 4.5. We're just going to subtract 0.5 from that 4.5, so it's giving it, making it 4 inch. So we're going to mark 4 inch on this, on the bust line, and we're also going to do the same on the half length like so. Next thing, I'm just going to connect all my dots together like so. So now, to determine where the princess line is going to be on the armhole curve, we are going to measure what we have here. Measure like so all around. Here we have 9.5 inch, and I'm going to be dividing that 9.5 inch by into 2, and it gives 4.5, which is here. So I'm going to be connecting this point to the bust point line with a curve like so. Just a slight curve like this. So the next thing, I'll be creating the cup, and on this under bust line I am going to be marking 2 inches from the bust span point. I'll also do the same for the half length. I'll be marking 2 inches, and note that this is not fixed. It all depends on the person's bust size. For bust measurement of 35 downwards, you are going to mark down 1.5. For bust measurement of 43 upwards, you're going to use 2.5. But for bust measurement of 36 to 42, you'll be using 2 inch, and you know the bust measurement I'm using here is 38 inches, so that's why I marked 2 inches at this point. So I'm just going ahead to extend this line to meet this one here. And also from this bust point, I'll be dropping it down by 1 inch. After doing that, I'm going to create a curve from this 1 inch point we've dropped all the way to meet the under bust line. We are also going to be creating the dart on the armhole curve, and to do that we're going to be marking down 1.5 inch at this point. We are going to be spreading that 1.5 inch, we're going to be dividing it into 2. So I am going to be marking 0.75 here and 0.75 here. But for someone that's really busty, you can decide to do 1 inch on both sides to give it that fitting, you know. So putting my tape here, I am going to, on this line, I'm going to be spreading 0.75 on both sides like this. 0.75. So remember we went down by 1 inch under the bust point line. We're also going to be marking 1 inch above it. So at this point I'll mark up 1 inch, and the 0.75 I've marked here, I'm going to connect a curve down to meet this 1 inch we've raised here to create a dart. So you're just going to put your ruler like this, making sure it doesn't pass this line. So I'm just going to draw the curve like so here, and I'm also going to extend this one like this. So the next thing I am going to do, since if you measure this place, you discover that here we have 6 inch, but when you measure here we have just 5 inch. The reason is because after we've taken this dart, we've lost the measurement on this part. So what we're going to do is whatever we've marked here, which is 1.5, we're going to extend this line with that 1.5 inch, so that by the time we sew, we have everything aligned together. So I'm just going to mark 1.5 inch here, and I'm going to extend this line to meet that 1.5 inch, and we're going to create a new armhole curve like this. After I'm done doing that, we're going to be adding our allowances. We had already drafted inserted our horizontal measurement here, the bust divided by 4 and also the waist divided by 4. So I'm just going to be adding allowance at this point. And we had already taken out 1.5 inch on the armhole curve, so we're going to be adding that to the bust measurement. So this is the initial bust measurement we had. So we're going to be adding that 1.5 inch here. Also, we're going to be joining these two parts together, so we're going to add half inch for here and also half inch for this part, so making it 1 inch. So after this 1.5 inch, I'm going to add 1 inch here. Again, we are going to be adding our joining allowance. We're going to be turning it with lining, and we're also going to be sewing. So altogether, I'm going to be adding 2 inch for sewing allowance. So after this point here, we're going to add 2 inches here. So altogether, we have about 4.5 inch allowance added to the bust point. So going over to the half length, this is our initial waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to be adding this 2 inch we took out on the waistline, on the half length line. So we are going to add that here. Also, we're going to add a half inch. We had already added half inch to this part, so we're not going to add that to the side allowance. We're just going to add the half inch for this side to the allowance. So after this 2 inch point, we're going to add the half inch here, and also the sewing allowance is 2 inches, so we're going to mark that here. So altogether, I added about same 4.5 inch on the waistline. So we're going to roll that out to connect our dots together. Okay, so before cutting this out, I'm just going ahead to make sure that I don't have any pointy points. So any point that it's pointed, I'm just going ahead to curve it out, because it's going to help me when I'm sewing. So I'm just going to curve that out. So this is what I have. This is our Princess Bustier drafted out. So I'm just going ahead to cut it out. So just watch carefully how I'm going to be cutting this. So this is a neckline. At this point, I realized that I did not add my half-inch shoulder joining allowance. So guys, make sure to do that before you cut out. I'll just make sure I add that up while cutting on my main fabric, but make sure that while drafting you add your half-inch shoulder allowance, because if not, you're going to have your measurements misplaced, just like how I mentioned earlier. When you get to this point, you're just going to cut out like this. You have this part, and then we're going to come over here. We're going to cut from here like this. So guys, this is what we have after cutting it out. Remember, we cut this side on fold, so this is what it looks like, and these are the sides. So by the time you sew up everything together, it's going to sit perfectly, and it's going to give you that fitting you deserve, the fitting you require. So this is it. So guys, now we're going ahead to draft the back of our princess seam. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to be inserting our zipper allowance, and here I'm going to be using 2 inches for zipper allowance. Again, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two, so I have my fabric folded into two here. So I'm just going ahead to draw a straight line indicating the zipper allowance. Let me write here zip. So from this point, we're going to be inserting our measurement but after the zipper line. So the first thing I'm going to do is to insert the shoulder measurement, which is 7.5 plus half inch joining allowance, making it 8 inch. So I'm going to be placing my tape on this 2 inch allowance we have placed here, and we're going to be marking our shoulder point, and as usual we're going to be dropping that by 1 inch after the 8th inch here. Also for the neck width, we're going to be maintaining the same thing for the front, which was 3.5 inches. So I'm just marking down here. But for the neck depth, we're going to be making a high neck for this, so I'm going to be marking 2 inches at this point. This is not fixed. You can decide to do yours any style depending on the style you're making and what your client wants. So for me, I'm making use of 2 inches, which is a high round neck. I'm just going ahead to join all my dots together. After doing that, I'm going to be creating the armhole curve, and what I'm going to do is to, from this 1 inch point, I'll be marking down 8 inches. Formula for finding the armhole curve is your bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I'm just marking down 8 inch here before going ahead to rule everything out. So guys, as usual, you're supposed to add your ½ inch shoulder allowance here, but I'm going to be doing that after when I'm cutting on my fabric. So for actually forgot to put that here. So in case you're drafting yours, make sure you add your ½ inch shoulder allowance before cutting it out, except you plan on cutting it while cutting on your fabric. So to create the armhole curve, the first thing I'm going to do is to divide my bust measurement into 4, and my bust is 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. So I'm just going ahead to mark that down here after the 2 inch point. Keep that in mind. So 9.5 here. And then I'm going to be creating the curve. You know, for the front we marked the middle point of this, and then we went in by ½ inch, but for the back we're just going to maintain it like this. Hope you get me. Okay guys, so this is what we have. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to be inserting our vertical measurements, which is the butt and the shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust, and also our half length. So the shoulder to bust point is 10 inch. We're going to mark that here. Then the shoulder to under bust is 13 inches. And our half length is 16 plus 1 inch joining allowance, making each 17 inches. After marking that out, I'm going ahead to rule out my lines. I'll be extending this line downwards. So I'll be indicating what each line means. So this is our bust point, this is our under bust, and this is the half length. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to be inserting our bust pan, and we're going to be making use of the same thing we did for the front. The bust pan we had was 4 inches plus ½ inch, made it 4.5. So we're going to be marking that 4.5 after the zipper allowance. So I'm going to put place 4.5 here on the bust point, and then on the under bust we're going to be subtracting 0.5 from that 4.5, making it 4 inch. We're also going to be putting 4 inch on the half length. So I'm just going ahead to rule that out. So after doing that, we're going to be creating the curve to the on the armhole. And the first thing we're going to do, remember for the front we had 4.5 after we measured round our armhole. So we're going to be marking same 4.5 here from the shoulder. We just mark down 4.5 inches. So guys, the next thing we have to do is to connect with a curve like this, but for the back I don't like it too curved. I don't like how curved it's coming. I don't like the shape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to alter that. I'm going to raise this point we've marked here by 1 inch, so it won't be too curved. It's just going to have a slight curve. It looks better that way. So once I raise that up by 1 inch, I'm just going to connect this like so with a curve, and we have our back princess that created. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to be inserting our horizontal measurement, which is our round bust and our waist. So on the bust point, we're going to be dividing our bust into 4. 38 divided by 4, we have 9.5, and the normal sewing allowance we're using is 2 inches. So I'm just going to insert that 9.5 here first after the zipper allowance. So we're going to be inserting 9.5 inch here. After doing that, we're going to be adding our 2-inch sewing allowance. After adding our 2-inch sewing allowance, we're going to be adding 1 inch here, because we're going to be joining, we're going to cut this through and we're going to be joining them back together. So after we cut it, we're going to lose ½ inch here and also ½ inch here after joining. So we're going to add 1 inch after this 2-inch sewing allowance. So altogether we have about 3-inch allowance added to the bust point. Also on the waist, we're going to be dividing our waist measurement into 4, and we're going to be adding the allowance there. So our waist is 28 divided by 4 is 7 inches. So we're first of all going to mark the 7 inches after the zipper allowance. After marking down the 7 inch, we'll be adding a 2-inch sewing allowance here. And then also we're going to be joining these two parts together, and ½ inch for here and also ½ inch for here, making it 1 inch. So we added 3 inches altogether for the waistline. So I'm just going ahead to connect my points together. So guys, before we go, remember, we're going to be cutting this part, and after cutting we're going to lose some measurement on this side, because if you put your tape like this, you have 7 inches, but when you put it like this, you have about 6 inches. So we're going to be adding allowance to this part of our back princess seam, so that it can be aligned after we sew. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to be adding 1 inch here. So I'm going to extend my curve to meet that 1 inch point, like so. And after doing that, we're creating a new armhole to meet up this point like this. And that is it, guys. We have our back armhole, our back princess seam created. So also I'll be extending this neckline all through to this zipper point, like so. Now that we're done drafting, we're going to be cutting it out, but first of all I'm going to indicate that I'll be adding ½ inch allowance at the shoulder, because we did not add it before cutting, so we will not forget while cutting on our fabric. So to cut it out, this is how I'm going to be cutting it out. Just watch carefully how I do this. So first of all, cut the neckline. After cutting the neckline, we'll be cutting the shoulder and then the armhole. For the armhole, we're not going to be cutting all through, we're just going to cut like this. So guys, this is what we have. We're also going to be opening up our zipper allowance. So guys, there's one more thing left. After we are done joining this curve all through for the front, we're going to have this front of our princess seam shorter. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut out from the back so that the back can be aligned to the front after we are done joining everything together. And you know, backs, you need to cut them short so that it sits well at the back and there's no gaping anywhere. So I'm going to show you how we're going to alter that. So let's first of all start with the front. For the front, we're going to curve the side so that it gives a great finishing, like great fitting after cutting. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to be marking out 0.75 at the side of our front. So after marking that down, we're just going to curve that in to the middle of our front like this. And then we're going to cut this out. When you do this, it gives a good fitting, it sits properly on the body. So you can see this is what it looks like. Also for the back, we're going to be cutting out 0.7 inches on both the side and the middle. So I'm going to mark out 0.75 at this point and also 0.75 at this point. So I'm just going to mark that out. And we're going to be cutting it out. And that is it, guys. We are done drafting both the front and the back of our Princess Bustier. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Turn on notifications so that whenever I post new videos, you'll be updated on my new videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.